It was honestly the worst day of my life.
One, two, three, funk it.
When many Americans hear the term D-Day, they reflect on June 6, 1944, when Allied forces landed in Normandy during World War II. And for a former Army jumpmaster such as myself, that day has significant meaning. More recently, however, I've come to associate the term D-Day to something a bit more personal to me, and that is my daughter Ella's day of diagnosis. While her actual diagnosis didn't come for a few days later, June 17th, 2020 is a day I'll never forget. It hit my husband and I like a freight train. You know, emotions were heavy, things were moving extremely fast. Honestly, the day started off a bit sad as my mom was preparing to leave after having stayed with us for a month to help take care of Ella as I prepared to give birth to our son, Francis. And as she was kind of giving her a hug, she was rubbing her hand up against her side and felt something. So she said, "Hey, Megan, feel this." And there was a clear difference between this, her right abdomen, which had this seemingly large bulge, and then the left side of her abdomen. So I pointed it out to my husband, and we called the pediatrician. Now, Ella has kind of always sort of had a little toddler belly. She loved to eat. She always maintained the 90th percentile. I mean, even now through chemo, she's in the 80th percentile, and does a really good job of eating during her off cycles, not necessarily while she's getting treatment. And so, to have a belly wasn't out of the ordinary for her, but now to have this seemingly overnight bulge on the side caused concern. So we head for her pediatrician's office immediately, and I just remember Googling in the car, because Ella has kind of always had constipation issues. She didn't really enjoy going poop. And so, taking her to the doctor many times, to which her pediatrician has always said constipation is normal, treat with some pear juice and some prune juice. And so I'm Googling in the car, like, what things related to constipation can create sort of this kind of bulge on the side. And I read things like fecal impaction. I didn't want to think it was the worst possible thing. So get to the pediatrician, bring it up, and he just wasn't convinced of that. So we immediately went to the emergency room. And now this is during COVID. One parent allowed in the hospital. So Marcus went in with Ella. I took Francis home and just kind of waited while they ran a bunch of tests on her, did some labs and some scans, ultrasound. And I remember getting a text from my husband that said, "It doesn't look good. Radiologist has to confirm, but there is something." Like, what does that even mean? You know how you get that feeling in your throat where it just feels like you're trying to swallow a baseball? That's how I remember feeling. And I hope to never have that feeling again. Anyhow, because of the severity of the issue, I was granted a waiver to be able to meet both Marcus and Ella in the hospital. And I remember getting the brief from her team of doctors. Scans showed a right renal mass, so that's her kidney, a mass around her kidney with possible metastasis to her lungs and lymph nodes. I mean, here we are talking about a girl who's still running around, laughing, playing, complaining of absolutely nothing. And now we're having a discussion about cancer. It just didn't make any sense to me. Both the surgeon and oncology teams were present as they kind of laid out the plan of action, which was remove the mass and kidney in their entireties and possibly follow up with some sort of chemotherapy, or radiation, or possibly some other treatments. To which we asked, is removal of the kidney necessary? Now, everyone was kind of working off of the assumption that this was something called a Wilms tumor. In fact, surgeon said 95% sure this is a Wilms tumor. The way Ella presents herself and just kind of the location and how big it is, this was classic Wilms. To which they said, out of all of the tumors you want to have, this is the one. So she said with a Wilms tumor, simply conducting a biopsy runs the risk of greater metastasis. And so you want to remove it all in one shot. Hindsight is 2020. I mean, if I even thought there was a 1% chance that it was something else, I wish I just would have done my due diligence and done all the research that I could to, raise possibly other treatment options. But the reality is, as a parent, you're still reeling from the information that you just got, and knowing that this kind of manifested itself quickly, something had to be done soon. So we got there on a Wednesday. Surgery was scheduled for a Friday, and a 4-hour surgery took 7 hours. And I remember upon completion of the surgery, her surgeon came out and said, we got it all out, to which my husband and I replied, wow, that's awesome, sighed in relief. I remember asking her though, without having the pathology back yet, because that takes a couple of days, hey, you were in there, you saw it, do you still think this is Wilms' tumor? To which she said yes, confidently, but her percentage went down from a 95 to about 85. That concerned me. Now the tumor would be sent to pathology for confirmation of her official diagnosis. So we just waited in the hospital as she healed. She was on a bunch of different blood pressure medications as a result of the tumor putting pressure on her kidney. And on June 24th, one day after Ella's second birthday, her surgeon and oncologist entered the room, sat down, and said, it's not what we thought it was. It's neuroblastoma. And I could tell by their tone and demeanor that wasn't a good thing. My mom stinks, seemingly absent for the past few days, kicked in. We needed to be in a place that specialized in neuroblastoma. Not only that, I was disappointed in her medical team's overwhelming confidence that this was a Wilms tumor. You see, neuroblastoma protocol doesn't necessarily call for surgery first. It requires chemotherapy followed by surgery. Chemotherapy to help kind of reduce the shrinkage of the tumor in an attempt to possibly salvage your organs. So I felt that we needed to be somewhere different. And so Ella continued to heal and rest in the hospital, or so I thought. Literally a day before her surgeon goes on vacation, Ella's rushed into another emergency surgery. She had stopped passing stools in the hospital. So they went in to do a surgery to clear a blockage that she had in her intestines that was a result of the first surgery. It was time to go. So I Googled the top hospitals in neuroblastoma and utilized a family friend at Children's Hospital in California, and they connected us to Ella's current oncologist today. We were cleared to travel literally a week later. We packed about 5 pieces of luggage and left for the West Coast. After arriving in California, Ella began treatment the following week and is still in treatment today with 1 kidney, no less. Man, did we learn so much through just that experience. And throughout, these episodes, I'll be kind of talking about what parents should think about immediately when something like this happens. Just key takeaways of what we experienced in Virginia. We'll be discussing that in one of our episodes. We'll also be talking about how it's okay to ask questions, and we're so quick to just completely trust our medical teams, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But as a parent, you must advocate for your child because they can't. So just learning how to navigate being a critical member of your child's care team is important. And overall, really just trusting your mom stinks. If something doesn't feel right, it's probably not. So that's our D-Day and the days that followed, just kind of in a nutshell. Thank you for listening to the worst experience of my life. Ella Strong. See you next time.